Welcome to Systems of Equations and Inequalities. Let's go ahead and solve the first few things. As we see the notes here, the steps to solving those things, just like in class. So let's go to the first question. And we want to take the first y equals and plug it into the second y equation. So x squared minus 4 is equal to 2x minus 1. And then we move 2x to the left, and we get x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals negative 1. Don't drop the negative. And add 1 to the left. It's x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Now that's a trinomial. We can factor it. We get x minus 3, x plus 1. So x is either 3 or negative 1. So we need to plug those back into one of the equations. I'll pick the let's pick the top one, and we will substitute negative 1 in and see what we get for y. So that's positive 1 minus 4, that's negative 3. If we would have plugged it into the other one, that's 2 times negative 1 minus 1. So that's negative 2 minus 1, which is still negative 3. So when x is negative 1, we get negative 3. And then if we plug in 3 and solve it, we get 9 minus 4, which is 5. So our answer is either negative 1, negative 3, or, or 3, 5. Those are our two possibilities. Okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and solve this one. X equals negative 2y plus 1. And I'm going to substitute that in for x here. So y squared equals 1 minus negative 2y plus 1. So distribute the minus sign, I get y squared equals 1 plus 2y minus 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So y squared equals 2y. So I'm going to move that across the equal sign. Y squared minus 2y equals 0. Divide out a y, factor out a y, and we get y minus 2 equals 0. So y is either 0 or 2. So we substitute that in. So x plus 2 times y equals 1. So when x is 0, when y is 0, x is 1. So 1, 0. And then we substitute 2 in for y. And we subtract the 4. X is negative 3 when y is 2. Okay, so those are our two possibilities. Moving on. Okay, step 1, solve for the variable. We already have y here. Let's plug it in for y there. So 2 times 4x cubed equals x squared. So 8x cubed equals x squared. Let's divide everything by x squared. So we'll have 8x equals 1. So x equals 1/8. Another way to solve this piece here is if we get everything on one side, so we subtract x squared to the left, we can factor out an x squared, and we get 8x minus 1. So now, as you see here, either x is 0 or 8x minus 1 is 0. Okay, so x equals 0 or x equals 1/8. So what we want to do is try not to do the simple form that we learned in Algebra 1. Try to get everything on one side and then solve it that way, because we have two possibilities here. So now we substituted in 2y equals 0 squared. So 2y equals 0. Divide by 2, it's still 0. So 0, 0 is one of the possibilities here. Okay, and if we plug 1/8 in, 2y equals 1/8 squared. So 2y equals 1 over 64. Multiply both sides by 64 to get rid of the fraction. That's 128y equals 1. So y equals 1 over 128. So when x is 1/8, y is 1 over 128. Those are the possible answers you're going to be seeing. We're going to start looking at real-world answers. They're very, very strange answers. Okay, solve For x in this one, I'll do this one. So minus 2y minus 1. I'm going to plug in for x. So 2 times negative 2y minus 1, minus 3y equals 12. Distribute. And put like terms together. Move like terms across the equal sign. Divide off the coefficient. And y equals negative 2. Okay, so x plus 2 times y equals negative 1. I'm substituting back into one of the original equations. X plus negative 4 equals negative 1. So we add 4 to both sides. X equals 3. So 3, negative 2 would be the answer. Okay, solve for a variable. This time I'm just going to choose 2x. So 2x equals positive 3y plus 1. And divide everything by 2. Okay, so x is equal to 3 halves y. Get over the fraction fear. You're just going to have to deal with it. Welcome to the real world. That's what x is. So I'm going to substitute it into the other equation. And watch what happens. They were nice. Fractions are going to go away. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18 over 2 is negative 9. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. 9y and 9y. Negative 9 and positive 9 is 0. So we're left with negative 3 equal to 4. So that can't be, so there is no solution. Solve this equation for y. I get y equals x plus 2. I'm going to substitute it into this equation. X squared plus x plus 2 squared equals 20. So we square the x plus 2. You're going to get x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 20. That's 2x squared plus 4x. Subtract 20, I get minus 16. Factor out a 2, and I get a trinomial, x plus 4, x minus 2. So x is either negative 4 or positive 2. So y equals negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2. So negative 4, negative 2. Or when x is 2, what do you get? You get 4. Those are your answers. Okay, so again, solve for one of the variables. I'll choose x in the top one, negative 3y plus 5, and substitute it in there. Negative 3y plus 5, got to square it, plus y squared equals 25. So that's going to be 9y squared minus 30y plus 25 plus y squared equals 25. So 9y squared and y squared is 10y squared minus 30y. And if I subtract 25 to the left, that goes to 0, leaving 0 on the right as well. If we divide out or factor out a 10y, we get y minus 3. So either y is equal to 0 or y is equal to 3. Okay, so now we're going to substitute negative 3 times 0 plus 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. So when y is 0, x is 5. Now when y is 3, what do we get? Negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. So x is negative 4 when y is 3. Let's solve for y this time. Y equals x plus 4. And substitute that in. X squared plus x plus 4 squared equals 8. So here we get x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 8. So that's 2x squared plus 8x, and subtract 8 to the left. Factor out a 2. And we get a trinomial that factors. Eventually, they're not going to factor. So, x is negative 2. So when x is negative 2, y equals 2. So negative 2 would be your answer. All right. Again, solve for a variable. So y is equal to positive 3x plus 2. And substitute it in. X squared plus 3x plus 2 squared equals 9. And again, we'll get a trinomial. 9x squared plus 6, that'll be 12x plus 4 equals 9. And that's going to be 10x squared plus a 12x. Let's subtract 9, we get negative 5 equal to 0. Okay, nothing factors out of this. And you might think this factors. I'll just show you why you'd think it would. 5x and 2x, and just put a 5 and a 1 there. That's 10, and that's 5. Oh, nope, that doesn't work. And switch it around, you're still not going to get it right. So just to help you out, that doesn't factor. You have to use the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative b is negative 12 plus or minus. 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times a times c is negative 5 times 2 times a, and you just do the calculation. Negative 12 plus or minus 4 times 10 is 40 times 5 is 200. You have a minus here, that's plus. So 144 plus 200 is 344 all over 20. And 344 is the same thing as 4 and 86. And that's 2 square root of 86. 86 doesn't break down anymore where you can take anything out of it. So what do we have? We have x equals negative 12 plus or minus 2 square root of 86 all over 20. So each of these are divisible by 2. So we can reduce it. So that's negative 6 over 10 plus or minus square root of 86 over 10. Okay, and this first one, that's negative 3 over 5 divided by 2 plus or minus square root of 86 over 10 again. So this is what x equals. There's two possibilities here, negative 3/5 plus square root of 86 over 10 and negative 3/5 minus square root of 86 over 10. So you'd have to plug all of this stuff in to do these calculations. So let's do that to find y. So we're going to use the 3x plus 2 here to solve this. So let's move all this up. Y equals 3x plus 2. So y equals 3x plus 2. Let's substitute in the positive first. 3 times negative 3/5 plus the square root of 86 over 10 plus 2. And then we're also going to do the minus. 3 times negative 3/5 minus the square root of 86 over 10 plus 2. All right? And this will give us our y values. All right, so if we distribute the 3, we get negative 9/5 plus 3 square roots of 86 over 10 plus 2 over 1. Common denominator is 10, so let's multiply by 2 there, by 10 here, so we can get all the same denominators. Okay, so what do we have? Negative 18 plus 3 square root of 86 plus 20 all over 10. Negative 18 and 20 gives us 2 plus 3 square root of 86 over 10. And since this denominator reduces with one thing in the top, let's split it apart. That's 1/5, and this will still be 3 square roots of 86 over 10. So that's one possibility for y when x is the plus sign. All right, so distribute here, we get negative 9/5 minus 3 square root of 86 over 10 plus 2 over 1 again. So again, multiply by 2, multiply by 10, get a common denominator. We get negative 18 minus 3 square root of 86 plus 20 all over 10. Again, that's 2 all over 10. And again, let's reduce that to 1/5 minus 3 square root of 86 over 10. All right, so what is this really? Let me get rid of that part here and just tell you that's your y value when x is negative 3/5 plus the square root of 86 over 10. So there's your coordinate. And again over here, negative 3/5 minus the square root of 86 over 10. When that's x, you get your y value. So very ugly answers, but that's what your answer is. Okay, number 19. Again, I'm just going to solve for x. You could have solved for y if you wanted to. Okay. So now we're going to square that. Negative y plus 9 squared plus y squared equals 36. And these are going to start getting ugly. That's y squared minus 18y plus 81 plus y squared equals 36. So that's 2y squared minus 18y. Subtract 36 here. That's 45. And just to help you out, that doesn't factor. So negative b plus or minus square root of b squared. So 18 squared is 324 minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, so 8 times 45 is 360. Okay, so I think in the book they have this wrong. They have this as a negative 45, and that's obviously not correct. What we have under the radical is 324 minus 360, which gives me a negative 36. You can't have the negative there. So even though you have all this stuff here, that's no solution. Okay. 21. Again, I'll just solve for x and substitute that in for all the x's here. So we have negative y plus 1, minus 1. That's got to be squared, plus y plus 2 squared. So lots of different things here. First of all, you're not distributing that negative 1, it's minus 1. So since there's nothing distributed, you have negative y plus 1 minus 1. So those cancel out, and you just have negative y. And when you square it, it becomes positive y squared. And this is y squared plus 4y plus 4. And putting everything together, that's 2y squared plus 4y. Subtract the 10, negative 6. Divide off the 2. Makes it easier to do your factoring. Y plus 3, y minus 1. So y is negative 3 or positive 1. Okay, so when y is negative 3, let's substitute it in here. So x equals negative, whatever y is negative 3. Minus the negative is positive 3. So x is 4 when y is negative 3. And again, when y is 1, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. X is 0 when y is 1. Okay, 23. Now, let's just go ahead and do the hard part. Let's substitute this in for y. You could do the other and substitute this in for that y. But let's do this in for that y. So 4 over x plus 2. Either way, you're going to have to deal with the fraction. Equals x plus 5. So I took the circle and I substituted in for the other y. So I'm going to multiply both sides by x plus 2 to remove it from your denominator. And this is x squared. That's 5x, and 2x is 7x, and 10. Subtract the 4, and x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. So x plus 6, x plus 1. So x is either negative 6 or negative 1. So let's substitute it into that equation. y equals x plus 5, that's -1, and y equals -1 plus 5, which is 4. All right, there you go. All right, we're getting into the crazy here. I'm just going to substitute that in. So 9 minus x squared equals 20 over x squared. So again, multiply your variable out of your denominator and distribute on this one. 9x squared minus x to the 4th equals 20. Okay. Let's move everything to the right side. X to the 4th minus 9x squared plus 20. And again, because that's half of the first exponent, this is a trinomial. Does it factor? And sure enough, it does. X squared and x squared minus 5 and minus 4. So x squared minus 5 is equal to 0. So we solve that, and we get plus or minus the square root of 5. So we get positive square root of 5, the negative square root of 5, and also x squared minus 4 equals 0. Take the square root, and you get plus or minus 2. So positive 2 and negative 2. So you got 4 possibilities for x's. Now we got to get the y's. Let's use the simple one here. Y equals 9 minus x squared. Let's just start with the first one, square root of 5. So that's 9 minus 5, which is 4. And if we square the negative one, the next one, we're still going to get the same thing. So let's go to 2. If you're not sure, then substitute it in. It's going to be 5. Same thing if I put a negative 2 in, it's going to be a positive 4. That gives us our answers. Okay, so now we have quite a few things to look at here. There aren't any variables that have a single exponent of 1, but that's okay. Let's just solve for y squared at the top here. Let's add 4x squared. Y squared equals 4x squared plus 4. So that's what y squared is, and we actually have a y squared that we can plug it into. We don't need to square that information because it's already squared. All right, so 9 times y squared. Y squared is 4x squared plus 4. Don't square it, it's already been squared. Now distribute the 9 and put like terms together and solve. 36x squared plus 36 plus 16x squared equals 140. That's 52x squared. Subtract 36 and divide off the 52, and conveniently we take the square root. That's plus or minus the square root of 2. All right, so you got positive square root of 2, negative square root of 2 for x. Okay, so now we're going to take this, and we have y equals plus or minus the square root of 4 times x squared. If we square the positive or negative square root of 2, it becomes positive. So we can do both of these at the same time. If you don't understand that, then put a negative square root of 2 in there and square it and see what you get. Okay, so this is plus or minus the square root of, square the square root of 2, you get 2 times 4 is 8. And so now we have positive or negative square root of 12, and that's positive or negative 2 square root of 3. All right, so that's for both of these. If it's the square root of 2, you have plus and minus 2 square root of 3. If it's a negative square root of 2, you still have a plus or minus 2 square root of 3. So in reality, you have multiple answers here. The square root of 2 and positive 2 square root of 3, the square root of 2 and negative square root of 2 square root of 3, and then you have a negative square root of 2 and the positive 2 square root of 3, and a negative square root of 2 and the negative 2 square root of 3. So 4 answers there. All right. Again, let's solve for a variable. Let's just, let's see here. If we take and divide everything by 8 on this equation, we get x squared plus 2y squared equals h. That'd be 16. So let's solve for x squared. X squared equals negative 2y squared plus 16. So we plug that in for the x squared there. We don't have to square this, it's already squared. X squared is negative 2y squared plus 16. So negative 2y squared plus 16 plus 9y squared equals 36. And so we solve. Distribute. Negative 8y squared plus 64 plus 9y squared equals 36. Combine like terms, that's y squared. Let's subtract 64 to the right. And that will equal a negative 30. And we can't take the square root of a negative value. So, no solution. And here, I'm going to move the y squared over, and I get x squared equals y squared plus 4. And I'll plug this into that x squared. So y squared plus 4 is x squared, plus y squared equals 12. Y squared and y squared is 2y squared. I'll subtract the 4, equals 8. Divide off the 2. Y squared equals 4. Square root y equals plus or minus 2. Again, that's what we have for our possible answers. Now what do we get for x? So x squared is equal to y squared plus 4. So x is equal to plus or minus the square root of y squared plus 4. So y is positive or negative 2, so anytime you square that, it doesn't matter. So we're doing both at the same time. So either way, that's still positive 4 plus 4, which is square root of 8. And that's 2 square root of 2, and it's plus or minus. So you have a positive 2 square root of 2, 2, and you have a negative 2 square root of 2, 2. Same thing over here, a positive 2 square root of 2, negative 2, and a negative 2 square root of 2, negative 2. Those are all your answers. And the ugly one here, this should be your last one. Let's solve the first equation for x. Let's move all this over, and x equals negative 2y plus z minus 1. And now let's substitute this into each of these equations here, a, b, and c. So into b and c. So 2 times x minus y plus z equals 9. Distribute. And we get negative 4y plus 2z minus 2 minus y plus z equals 9. Combine like terms. Let's see, let's put our y's together. That's minus 5y. And then our z's. That's plus 3z. And then let's add 2 to the right. That's equals 11. That was b. Let's do c. X is negative 2y plus z minus 1 plus 3y plus 3z equals 6. Don't need the parentheses, there's nothing to distribute. So let's combine like terms. Negative 2y and 3y is y. And a positive z and a positive 3z is positive 4z. And we'll add 1 to the right side, that's 7. So now we have 2 equations and 2 unknowns. So I'm going to solve the second one. We'll call this D and E. Let's solve E for y. Let's move the 4z over. So that's y equals negative 4z plus 7. And we'll substitute this in for this y. So negative 5 times y, which is negative 4z plus 7, plus 3z equals 11. Distribute. And that's minus 35 plus 3z. And you keep going, combine like terms, it's 23z. Let's add 35 to 11, that's 46. Divide off the 23, and conveniently z is 2. All right, so now let's plug it back in. If z is 2, negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. So we have negative 1 and 2 for y and z. And to get x, we substitute those values back in to the original equation that we have. X equals negative 2 times y plus z minus 1. So that's positive 2 plus 2 minus 1, or 4 minus 1 is 3. And there is your answer. And you don't have to do 35. I'll do 35 just for practice. I'll take this equation and solve for y. Y equals negative z plus 1. Substitute it into both equations for y, but there's not a y up there. Okay, so 2x plus negative z plus 1 equals 1. And here we can solve for x. Let's see, let's put them all together here first. 2x minus z, subtract 1 to the right, that's 0. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's solve this for z. Let's move this over, and we get z equals 2x. All right, so we know what y is, but that doesn't help us in equation A. So we're going to take equation A. We have x squared plus z squared. Well, z squared is right here. Oops. All right, and that equals 5. And now we can solve for x. So x squared plus 4x squared equals 5. So that's 5x squared equals 5. Divide off the 5. X squared equals 1. So x is plus or minus 1. Okay, so that's the first part. So now we can get z by substituting up here. So z is equal to 2 times positive 1 and 2 times negative 1. You got to put both of them in. So when x is 1, positive 1, z is 2. When x is negative 1, z is negative 2. Now we got to figure out what y is. Let's use equation B. 2 times, let's use equation C. C is y plus z equals 1. Y equals negative z plus 1. So if z is 2, y is negative 1. If z is negative 2, oops, that's 1, y is 3. And there are your answers for 35. And now 47, the perimeter of a rectangle is 40 inches. So perimeter is 40 inches. Rectangle, that's the perimeter equals 2 times the leg plus 2 times the width, length and width. So that equals 40. So there's one equation right there. And it's area. Area equals length times width. And the area is 96 inches, square inches. All right. So there's your second equation. So let's write it out here. 2L plus 2W equals 40. And L times W equals 96. All right, let's just solve for one variable here. Let's solve for L. Let's move the 2W over. 2L equals 40 minus 2W. Divide off the 2. And the length is 20 minus W. The 2 is reducible to both terms. So now that we know what L is, we can solve for W. Oops. So 20 minus W times W equals 96. We substituted it into equation B here. So that's 20W minus W squared equals 96. Let's move everything to the right to make that leading exponent positive. All right, so here's what we have. we have 0 equals w squared minus 20w plus 96. All right, so hopefully that factors. And we have 8 and 12, negative, negative. So w is 8 or 12. So let's substitute this stuff back in and, oops, to our original equations here. So length times width equals 96. So the length divided by 8 is 12. And length times width is 96. If the width is 12, then the length must be 8. All right, so it's either 8 by 12 or 12 by 8. Either way, you're going to get the same rectangle. So 8 and 12 or 12 and 8. Okay? All right, that's the end of it.